WhisperLibrary. We believe in books.
Once there was a man who spent years trying to make everyone like him. He smiled when he was tired, agreed when he was angry, and apologized even when he wasn't wrong. Until one day, he realized, no matter how much he cared, the world didn't care back. That day, he stopped trying to please everyone and started living for himself. Because the truth is, caring less isn't about being cold. It's about being free. You're listening to WhisperLibrary, where every story whispers wisdom. Let's uncover the truths that change the way we see life. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson isn't your typical self-help book. It's raw, real, and brutally honest. It teaches us that not everything deserves our time, our energy, or our endless worries. Sometimes, the best way to live a better life is to stop trying to make it perfect. So take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's start. Chapter 1, Don't Try. Once upon a time, there was a man named Charles Bukowski, a drunk, a gambler, and a failure by society's standards. He spent years being rejected by publishers, broke, and living a rough life. Yet when he finally became famous, he refused to pretend he was a success. On his tombstone, the words were carved, "Don't try." That's how this book begins, with a lesson most people never learn. We're all obsessed with trying, to be happier, richer, smarter, or more loved. But Mark Manson says, the harder you chase those things, the more you feel you lack them. The constant desire for a better life is, ironically, what makes us miserable. The truth is, life itself is limited. You can't care about everything, because every yes demands 1,000 no's. We all have a limited number of fucks to give. The question is, where will you spend them? Manson argues that happiness comes not from avoiding problems, but from finding better problems to solve. Pain and struggle are unavoidable. But choosing which pain is worth it, that's where real growth begins. Society tells us to stay positive all the time. But when we deny our failures, we deny the truth. Accepting that life is sometimes unfair, boring, or painful makes us mentally stronger and emotionally free. Bukowski didn't try to be great. He simply did what mattered to him, without pretending to be someone else. That's the art Mark Manson wants us to learn. Stop trying to be perfect. Start being real. Because freedom doesn't come from caring about everything. It comes from caring about less, but more deeply. Chapter 2, Happiness is a Problem. Imagine this: you finally get what you've always wanted. A dream job, a big house, that perfect relationship. For a while it feels amazing, but soon something new starts to bother you. A new goal, a new desire, a new problem. Mark Manson says, that's not a glitch in life. That's life itself. Happiness is not the absence of problems. It's the ability to face them with meaning and purpose. Every person you admire, the artist, the entrepreneur, the athlete, they didn't escape struggle. They found something worth struggling for. And that made all the difference. We're taught to believe that happiness means endless comfort, but comfort only breeds emptiness. When you stop growing, you stop feeling alive. Pain is not your enemy. It's your compass. It points to where change is needed. Manson reminds us of the hedonic treadmill, the endless cycle of wanting more, where every achievement quickly loses its magic. You buy, you smile, and soon, you want again. That's why true satisfaction doesn't come from more pleasure, but from better problems. The question isn't, how can I be happy? The real question is, what pain am I willing to endure? Because whatever you choose to care about will also bring discomfort, sacrifice, and struggle. And only by accepting that do you gain control over your own happiness. The truth is, pain and joy are two sides of the same coin. You can't numb one without numbing the other. The more you run from pain, the more powerless you become. Happiness isn't something you find. It's something you create through the problems you choose to solve. Chapter 3, You Are Not Special We live in a world that constantly tells us we're special. Every child gets a medal, every opinion gets applause, and every small effort deserves a reward. But Mark Manson says this obsession with being extraordinary is slowly destroying our peace of mind. The truth? Most of us are not extraordinary, and that's completely okay. Accepting that simple fact is one of the most freeing things you can ever do. When you believe you're special, you start expecting life to treat you differently. You demand more success, more love, more attention. And when reality doesn't match those expectations, frustration takes over. Social media only makes it worse. We see perfect lives, perfect bodies, perfect smiles, and start to believe that our normal life isn't enough. But in chasing constant validation, we forget the beauty of being ordinary. Manson explains that real confidence doesn't come from thinking you're better than others. It comes from accepting that you're not. It comes from finding meaning in small, honest moments, helping someone, learning something, failing, and trying again. When you stop chasing greatness, you make space for growth. You begin to measure yourself not by impossible standards, but by real, personal values. Everyone can't be a billionaire, a genius, or a world changer, but everyone can be honest, kind, and grounded. And that's what makes life meaningful. The irony is, once you stop trying to be special, you actually start living more authentically. And that's where true self-worth begins. So no, you're not special, but you are real. And that's far more powerful than perfection. Chapter 4. The Value of Suffering. Everyone wants to live a happy life, but few ever ask, what kind of pain am I willing to live with? Because every path in life demands a price. Success demands sacrifice. Love demands vulnerability. Growth demands failure. Mark Manson says that the quality of our life depends not on what pleasures we chase, but on what suffering we're ready to endure. We all love the idea of success, the fame, the comfort, the applause. But we forget to love the grind that builds it. Everyone wants to be a hero. No one wants to bleed for it. The truth is, suffering gives life its shape. The moments that test us, define us. The struggles we choose become our story. Manson shares that meaning doesn't appear magically. It grows from pain that matters. When you choose your pain with awareness, you also choose your purpose. A musician suffers through endless practice, an athlete through exhausting discipline, a parent through sleepless nights, yet none of them regret it because their suffering means something. The problem begins when we suffer for the wrong things, when we chase validation, comparison, or hollow goals. That's not noble suffering, that's wasted energy. Life will always have pain, but if your pain serves your values, it becomes strength. If it doesn't, it becomes misery. So stop asking, how can I avoid pain? Instead ask, which struggle is worth my love? Because happiness doesn't come from running away from problems. It comes from fighting the ones that truly matter. Pain is not your punishment, it's your teacher. And once you learn from it, you grow beyond it. Chapter 5. You are always choosing. Every day, you make choices. Some small, some life-changing. What to eat, whom to love, what to believe, how to react. Most of us think we don't have control, that life just happens to us. But Mark Manson says, that's an illusion. You are always choosing, even when you choose nothing. Pain hits everyone. The difference lies in how we interpret it. You can blame others, or you can take responsibility. You can complain, or you can act. Responsibility doesn't mean fault. It means ownership of your response. Suppose someone breaks your heart. It's not your fault, but it's still your responsibility to decide how you'll heal, how you'll move forward, because no one else can do that for you. The moment you accept this truth, you reclaim your power. Victimhood might feel safe, but it steals your ability to change. Responsibility feels heavy, yet it's the only path to freedom. Manson reminds us that our choices quietly design our destiny. If you keep choosing comfort, you choose stagnation. If you choose growth, you accept discomfort as the cost of meaning. Life won't hand you perfect options, only trade-offs. Every yes hides a no. Every dream demands something in return. But once you see that you are the chooser, not the victim of your circumstances, clarity replaces chaos. So, next time life feels unfair, ask, what am I choosing right now? Not why me, but what now? Because the power to shape your story isn't somewhere out there. It's in every decision you make, every moment you decide what truly deserves your effort. Chapter 6. You're wrong about everything, but so am I. What if everything you believe could be wrong? Your opinions, your memories, even the stories you tell yourself. Mark Manson begins this chapter with a brutal truth. We are all wrong all the time. The problem isn't being wrong, it's refusing to admit it. Human beings love certainty. We crave being right about politics, love, success, even our past. But life isn't a courtroom, it's a classroom. And if you can't question yourself, you'll never grow beyond your mistakes. Every belief you hold is just a hypothesis waiting to be tested. What you know today might be proven false tomorrow. Yet people cling to their ideas because being wrong feels like losing control. Manson reminds us, humility is not weakness, it's intelligence. The smartest people aren't the ones who know the most. They're the ones willing to say, I don't know. They see truth as a moving target and wisdom as a process, not a destination. Think of your life as a map. Every year, you discover parts that were missing, roads that don't go where you thought, and mountains you never noticed before. The more you explore, the more you realize how small your old world really was. Manson says our beliefs should evolve like that, flexible, humble, open to being redrawn. Because growth means replacing old truths with better ones. So don't seek to always be right, seek to be less wrong every day. Doubt yourself, challenge your assumptions, and treat mistakes as updates, not failures. The moment you accept that you're often wrong, you stop fearing change. And that's when real learning begins. Not from being perfect, but from being brave enough to question yourself. Chapter 7. Failure is the way forward. Everyone wants success, but no one wants to fail. Yet Mark Manson says, failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the foundation of it. Every great life, every meaningful achievement is built upon layers of mistakes, lessons, and attempts that didn't work. We're told from childhood to avoid failure, to stay safe, to get it right the first time. But that's the mindset that traps us in fear. The truth is, you can't find what works until you've faced what doesn't. Failure is feedback. It tells you what to fix, what to drop, and what to double down on. The pain of failure is not punishment, it's data. Every time you fail, you learn something. Reality was trying to teach you. Manson explains that success grows out of action, not inspiration. You don't wait to feel motivated. You act first, and motivation follows. Action, feedback, growth, that's the real formula. The most confident people aren't fearless. They're just familiar with failure. They've fallen so many times that fear lost its power. They've learned to see failure not as a dead end, but as part of the process. Think about it. Babies fall hundreds of times before they walk. Artists create terrible drafts before masterpieces. Entrepreneurs fail repeatedly before breakthroughs. Yet only adults call it failure. Children call it learning. Manson says, if you want to improve your life, stop asking, what do I want? And start asking, what am I willing to fail for? Because whatever you love enough to fail at again and again, that's where your purpose lives. Failure doesn't hold you back. Fear of failure does. So fall, learn, and move forward. That's the only real way to grow. Chapter 8. The importance of saying no. We live in a world that worships yes. Say yes to opportunities, to people, to every chance that knocks. But Mark Manson says, real freedom begins the moment you learn to say no. Saying yes to everything might feel like kindness, but it often turns into chaos. You please everyone and slowly lose yourself. Because every time you say yes to something meaningless, you're saying no to something that truly matters. Our values decide our boundaries. When your values are clear, no becomes easier. You no longer chase approval. You choose alignment. You stop trying to be everything for everyone and start focusing on being something real for a few. Relationships, Manson says, are built not on constant agreement, but on honest rejection. Love isn't avoiding conflict. It's being strong enough to say, "This doesn't work for me," and still respecting the other person. Most people think avoiding rejection keeps them safe, but in truth, avoiding rejection kills authenticity. The more you try to fit in everywhere, the more invisible you become. Manson reminds us, every no sharpens your yes. Every time you refuse what doesn't fit your values, you create space for what does. That's how you find real purpose. Not through addition, but through elimination. The power of no is the power of clarity. It's the courage to stand by your priorities even when the world calls you selfish. Because maturity isn't saying yes to everything. It's knowing what deserves your energy. So stop fearing rejection. Choose your yes carefully. Let your no protect your peace. And remember, a meaningful life isn't built by what you accept, but by what you refuse. Chapter 9, and then you die. One day, you'll wake up for the last time. You won't know it, but it will be your final sunrise. Everything you've chased, the stress, the fear, the noise, will suddenly seem small. That's where this book ends, and life's greatest truth begins. Mark Manson says, remembering that you will die is not depressing, it's liberating. Because when you face death, you finally understand what truly matters in life. We spend years trying to avoid pain, failure, rejection, yet death makes all those fears meaningless. The clock is always ticking, and that's what gives time its value. Death is not the opposite of life, it's part of it. It gives every moment weight and every choice meaning. When you realize your time is limited, you stop wasting it on things that don't matter. You stop chasing perfection and start chasing presence. You stop caring about being liked and start caring about being honest. Manson reminds us, our legacy isn't built by the trophies we earn, but by the people we touch, the love we give, and the values we live by even when no one's watching. Death is the ultimate clarity. It strips away the illusion of control and leaves only what's real: gratitude, humility, connection. So instead of fearing death, let it guide you to live more deeply. Let it remind you that life is too short to care about everything, and just long enough to care about what truly counts. Because in the end, we all fade. But how brightly we shine before we do, that's the story we get to choose. You spend your whole life chasing something, happiness, success, meaning, only to realize it was never about having more. It was about caring less and living deeper. That's the paradox Mark Manson leaves us with. The less you chase what doesn't matter, the more you find what does. Life was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to be real, full of chaos, pain, laughter, and quiet moments of peace that you only notice when you stop running. The truth is, we're all just stories in motion, stumbling, failing, learning, trying again. And that's what makes us human. Not our trophies, not our filters, but our willingness to feel, to fall, and to still move forward. So maybe the art of not giving a fuck isn't about ignoring life. It's about loving it honestly, without pretending, without fear, without wasting yourself on what's shallow. You've been listening to WhisperLibrary, where every word whispers wisdom. If this story made you stop, think, or breathe a little deeper, that's your mind growing quietly. Don't just listen, live differently. Because the real audiobook is the one you write every single day. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep listening to the whispers that shape your soul.